Welcome to Jester Brothers Cartoon Travelers, everybody. I am Alec, and I am joined by the Grim Reaper himself. How are you,
Hey,
Grim?
I'm doing pretty well. Light traffic today, which was nice. It's good to know. Sometimes people are not dying on time a lot of the time. You'd be surprised to find out. It's quite a tiresome thing that we got to deal with. You would be surprised. Yeah.
No, actually, I am surprised.
Yeah.
Do you drive?
Of course I
And
drive. What do you mean, do I drive?
Oh.
I'm offended. You think I wouldn't have a license?
I,
You know how old I am? You think I'm
I don't
16
mean
years
to-
old? Jesus Christ.
listen,
I've been
after
here since
a
before
certain-
you were born. I know when you're gonna die.
After a certain age,
I might make it a car accident just for that pass.
Oh, all right. Listen, I'm not trying to cause any problems here. I just wanted to talk to you today because it is Halloween month for Jester Bros Cartoon Theater, our whole thing, our whole business channel, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And ever since we started our original YouTube channel, we have celebrated Halloween month as being both September and October, as if it is one month. And I think that we've been consistent about that.
Yes. I don't know if we always started in September. It's definitely something I started doing while we were YouTubers, though. And I'm happy about it because I get twice the Halloween, and I need that in my life because I love it. Being death, of course.
Yes.
Obviously.
Thank you,
it's a great
Death
time.
Grim. Yeah, and by the way, I didn't mean to misspeak. What is your government name? What should I refer to you as?
Well, technically speaking, if I said it, it'd be the last word you ever heard. You know, kind of fits the whole bill, you know what I mean?
Got it.
It's one of those cursed words. It's not my fault. I'm actually quite upset about it. It makes it hard to do my job. Because it's hard to introduce. That's why I just call myself Death, you know? Whatever that means to whatever society, you know? I'm multilingual. I speak every language. Of course, I won't be able to for you right now, for reasons, but...
I had a close call there. I'm not going to ask again. I just wouldn't want you to slip by accident.
Of course, yeah. No. I would kill everybody listening to this. It'd be, it would just be a mess. Just be a mess.
All right, yeah, we don't want that.
Kombucha, by the way, good for your gut. Grim Reaper recommends.
Okay, thank you, Death or Grim Reaper. I'm still not sure which one to use, but I don't want to ask again.
It honestly doesn't matter.
Okay.
They're
Okay,
all
good.
The same. They're all the same.
Well,
you humans and your myths. Speaking of which, let's talk about some of the best times that I've ever been done well in animation, or anything close to me. The devil, a little bit of a perversion of my essence, in my opinion, but we'll let it slide for this one. And I think we're letting just Death in general, Death the Grim Reaper, and the devil. I think that's a fair docket. And there might be some that are kind of cheaters on here, but anything that was made in his image, so to speak.
Great. Well, that is what we are here to talk about. The best depictions of Death, the Grim Reaper, or the devil in animation history.
Yes.
I'll set the table by saying we have not seen everything. We've seen a lot of cartoons, a lot of different animated shows, movies.
Absolutely.
We're going to speak mostly to what I would say are the most mainstream depictions of these characters that we are the most familiar with. Do you think that's safe?
Yeah, I cultivated this list. They're the most relevant ones that I could remember. There are some that I'm aware of that we didn't add on this list, like the one from Futurama that you mentioned. I instead of having a huge column of ones that we just didn't know, I figured it would just be better if we just did the ones that were more familiar to everyone and we could talk about. So, leave your complaints in the comments. They help us out. Thank you so much. But watch to the end of the video anyway. Leave the comment very slowly so you get a lot of that watch retention in there.
For real, once you get through it, please do leave us comments to say, what are your favorite depictions of this character that we did not talk about? Because we want to know.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? While we're setting the stage, the reason I was actually excited to talk about this, because I texted you literally yesterday, and I'm like, dude, let's do a death tier list. It's because I actually have been watching some philosophy YouTubers recently, and I listened to one about how death is covered in the media. And I won't get too into it because it's obviously death is a very complicated thing. But I thought it was really interesting, and I think that we can explore those themes during our conversation today, and what we think makes a good rendition of the dead, of Death or the Grim Reaper or the Devil or whatever, and what we think when it comes to the good and evilness, the nature of death. We're going to get into a lot of really good discussion with this today. So that's why I was really excited to cover this topic. Because, I'm just the best topic at dinner parties. Everybody loves talking about me. As soon as death comes up at the Thanksgiving table, everyone's just like, oh, yeah, death's here. We love thinking and talking about that. So that's what we're doing today.
Death, I gotta say, I have a brother who's perfectly comfortable talking about death at the dinner table.
Wow.
He'll talk about anything. He doesn't care.
He sounds like a really, really awesome guy. And if he had a YouTube channel, I would subscribe to it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, listen, he's not here right now, but I definitely think that everybody should subscribe to Jester Bros Cartoon Theater. And
he won't be here after 2034 either.
Oh, no, please don't say that. And if you are a podcast listener, make sure that you're following Jester Bros Cartoon Travelers. I should mention that we are considering this part of that podcast. Normally, we are going through different cartoon worlds to decide if we want to live there. We thought that it would be fun to open the door to sort of go through different types of characters, whether it be depictions of the devil, whether it be animated vehicles. We kind of want to start compiling some of the best parts of animation for our own fictional animated world. And we want that to be part of our podcast too, because it just gives us a lot more creative opportunity to talk about different pieces of animation.
In other words, we like making lists.
We do. And why not start, if we're going to take one specific type of character to join us on our ship around the different animated worlds, why not have it be the Grim Reaper or the devil?
And you know what? Let's get into that conversation. So let's transfer over to our tier list right here. And where do you want to start? Should we pick at random? Do you care to start top at bottom? I'd be down to start. No. Okay. Let's start with one that I think is just interesting to talk to because it's got some levity to it. And that's the Family Guy death.
Oh boy, we got to talk about that first.
Do you remember this episode or any episodes that showcase this guy?
Yes. So I want to say out of the gate,
I'm just setting in there for a placeholder. Everyone.
That's fine. So, and podcast listeners, you are missing a bit of a visual medium, but we're gonna try to make it very easy for you to follow what's going on.
Yes.
I don't like Family Guy. I just want to make sure that that's out there, and that is going to bias my opinion here a little bit.
Yes.
I've seen plenty of it. I was a kid I was a teenager in the late 2010s or early 2010s, late 2000s, and Family Guy, everybody saw because it was on the friend's house. You had a cousin who watched it, and I've seen plenty of episodes.
Oh yeah, we watched a lot of Family. I know you didn't like it, but you and I together ended up watching a lot more. Like I remember watching this episode with you in our house in Colorado way back when.
Yeah, and I am not going to say that I never laughed. I think that there's a lot of really good comedy there.
There's good comedy.
I'm not going to waste time or be pretentious about it, but just know it's not really my style of animation or humor.
Well, that's fair. For me, though, we're not talking about Family Guy. We're talking about how they do death.
You're right.
And something that I'm glad that we're starting with this for is because they do this with humor, obviously. And I'm a character that has a great sense of humor. I'm hilarious. Again, funerals, just like a comedy club, honestly. In the grand scheme of things, more or less.
I'm not going to call that distasteful, and I want to be on your good side.
Yeah, that's wise decision. So, also they got my outfit right. I'm just kidding. I'm right. I'm not. No, but for real, the thing that I like about this is that they do him in a way where he's kind of just a relatable guy. He's not that supernatural. He doesn't really have that much investment in whether you live or die. He's just as plagued by litigiousness as, any other branch of a government. You know what I mean? And I think that there's something about that makes death feel less scary, which is not something that... death is scary, and I think that that's important to acknowledge too, but I think that there is also an importance in acknowledging the normalcy of it. Yeah, making it feel a little bit more like, You know, if there was some spirit of death, it's probably not some big scary ghost that's out there to chomp on your, narcs and make your soul waste away. It's way more likely just there to get you and move you along to the next place, which honestly would be a very boring job when you really think about it.
Well, I definitely don't want my narcs chopped. That's for sure.
Exact. Trust me. Okay, we deal with that.
I actually, despite not liking Family Guy, I agree with you. I like that Death is just kind of a casual person that you can have a beer with in this depiction.
Now, what I will also say is that it's Family Guy. We're not going in any crazy complexity, so I'd feel silly putting it any higher than B tier.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I feel like we could name these tiers as we go too, Like
maybe I wanna see where we land and then see if a pattern emerges.
Yeah, maybe we could start naming them, because I mean, for me, this is like a solid death.
Okay. I see what you're saying. You're not trying to rank them by levity versus complexity. You're just trying to categorize them based on. Well, actually, are you?
I mean, we'll kind of figure it out as we go, because it's going to be complicated, because the thing is, this death is going to look really different from other deaths that we talk about. And comparing it is kind of weird, and sometimes when things are like that, it's like comparing, like, who's a better painter or a better athlete? You know what I mean? Is Picasso a better painter than Messi as a soccer player? It's like, I have no idea how to frame that scope. And for things like that, it's nice to kind of create your own categories. You know what I mean?
That is true. I like to think about it like Picasso is an S-tier painter. Messi is a S-tier soccer player.
Sure.
Therefore, they both belong in that category. But if you're trying to rank them on top of each other, it's complicated.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I will say that, these tier lists, they work really well
for me, this is like solid
medium.
Average plus a little flavor. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. I think that you're right about that. And at the end, even though we're putting them in boxes or like 5 categories right now, I would potentially be interested in trying to do a ranking at the very end, but not thinking too hard about that part of it in the middle, if that sounds okay to you.
Totally. I'm just putting words here. I am listening to you, but I'm just throwing words up there. Well, we could change them.
Okay. That's totally fine by me. Well, I think that I agree with the placement of B tier for Family Guy's depiction of death. Could we move on to another one? We don't have to keep going with the levity theme. I think that we could bounce around wherever you think is interesting.
Yeah, sure. I'll just pick a random one. Oh, that one's levity. Actually, that's not too random. Let's go with Lucifer from Hazbin Hotel.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to speak to this one a little bit more, because I have seen a decent amount of Hell of a Boss.
This is a very different look at the character, which is why I like the idea. Like, we could create more things if we need, because so this character, when we're introduced to them, obviously it's literally Lucifer, and this is a show that's based in hell, so we're expecting this really kind of big thing. But he's kind of a skinny, flamboyant theater kid that is pretty secure, but like kind of a screwball and kind of messed. Like he's not what you expect when you think of the devil. You know what I mean? Like Lucifer, the Antichrist, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a great singing voice. I love his design. He does have a very badass moment that I won't spoil for people. Even though I realize this thumbnail might be probably more than a lot of people have seen if you're not familiar with the show. But even still, I would put them in S tier maybe later, but I have not seen enough of them in the show yet for me to want to put them that high.
Okay.
I think they are saucy. I think they have a very interesting, complex plot going on with the thing with the other angels in hell, or the other angels and hell, I should say. He's a dreamer. He's very much like somebody who seems like he had his dreams crushed. And he like tried to do something really good when he was in heaven, and everybody hates him for it and got cast out. He's a sympathetic character. He's not really a villain. And it makes it really different. And it plays a lot with the themes of what is good and evil. So I really like it, but not quite enough to be S tier, but maybe after the next couple seasons come out. they will be.
Well, that show in general plays with the themes of good and evil in a very compelling way.
Yeah.
In a way that I haven't really seen before. Something that I want to mention, I think that there's a case to be made that the devil is different than death.
Of course,
And
I think the devil is different than death. I mean, I liked putting him on the same category. I thought it'd be fun.
Sure, and I just want to specify, like, for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about both, but we are not necessarily saying they are the same.
No, and actually, in a lot of these canons, both of them exist. It's just we usually chose the more prevalent of the characters. Like the devil is probably a character in Family Guy. This is a very easy example.
Sure, even if it's a one-off thing, I agree with you. I think that that there are differences, there's distinction, and at the end, if we are trying to pick one to join us on our expedition, we could pick a devil and a Grim Reaper if we really want.
I will say Lucifer is a great choice for the company. I think that they've got a good personality.
Okay, well, we will keep that in mind. I feel like anytime you know a character better than me, it makes me a little uncomfortable for that, but
that's fair. That's very fair, especially given the nature of the show.
100%.
Come on, man. Right. I'm Death. I'd never steer you wrong.
What are we talking about next?
Do you just want to cover the rest? I think this is the last of the like adult animation genre. We could just go. Let's just do Rick and Morty.
Sure, that sounds great. Because again, you know a little bit better.
They were only in one episode. I chose this character because they kind of play with like Twilight Zone tropes, and I couldn't find another excuse to talk about Twilight Zone in this episode, and Twilight Zone is my favorite thing to do ever during Halloween. And Twilight Zone is great, and this is very much influenced by that, which gives it bonus points for me. This devil is also very funny. I know this is going to maybe sound weird, but he's not... The thing about this devil, the Family Guy devil, is that he's very relatable. He's a character that you like. You don't really like this devil. He's still a trickster, but the thing is, he's kind of actually bad at his job, and we just see Rick kind of troll on him the whole episode. And so he doesn't even do anything that evil. He's kind of petty. You know what I mean? Like, as Death, I'd almost say I'm offended. You know?
Oh, wow.
Like,
okay.
I'm sorry, Rick Sanchez, come get me. I dare you.
Fighting words from Death himself. You know,
damn right. What are you gonna do?
Bro, listen, you could just end this guy at a given moment if you really wanted to.
Well, I don't want to necessarily get into that. He's kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really want to mess with him either. But like, but he can't come down here. I'm not going to his house either, but he
okay. You got it.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll mess with you.
No,
I don't.
I mean, he can't. Because if he could, he definitely would have, probably by now.
For those of you who do enjoy a little bit more adult animation, especially on the comedy side, I did want to shout out, I think it's like the Robot Devil from Futurama and Satan from South Park. We know that these are popular depictions of the character. We just don't know them well enough to speak on them and try to tier list them responsibly. So
exactly. I'm not familiar with those renditions of myself, though I'm fans of anyone that tries to reiterate my work. And speaking of one that I think I want to talk about just because it's a strange choice. You know what? No, let's save that one. That's juicy. Are there any that you want to talk about? Shout one out.
Boy, you know, I have some interest in talking about Hades from Hercules, being the Disney guy that I am.
All right. I love this rendition. I love it.
I really think it's fantastic, and I think that it has legacy and staying power that is toward the top of the list if you're ranking it by that.
I would go ahead and say in terms of Disney villains, they're one of my favorites. Dialogue, just so funny, dude. They're just so funny and genuinely intimidating, which is something that the Family Guy Death doesn't get across. The intimidation that a figure like this, I think, actually probably should demand. Given what Death really is and how when you really think about it and we're not playing with comedy and we're treating it like how we're all actually a little scared to die. You know, Hades as a figure of evil that's trying to capture you. When he gets enraged, he turns into this ball of fire and fury. And the morph makes sense. He's super funny. He's almost likable. You like kind of like him, which I like about Devil. I like Devil characters to be likable. I think just being an epitome of evil is very boring.
Yeah, I think that Hades has a lot going for him because there's a lot of levity there. As an audience, you laugh with the jokes. You love the design, the blue hair, the yellow eyes that pierce.
And what I'm
but
realizing...
then also,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Also, he's a hothead, and you see him get angry and have his own motivations. He occupies a different slot in this exercise because he's technically a Greek god, more so than the devil himself, but we still think that he falls in the category.
Close enough. It's all sourced from the same stuff. They're all myths based on my glory,
Yeah. So you're fine putting Hades in the company of you.
Absolutely. Not to mention, I can't put them up there because they're not complex enough. They are still just evil for almost no reason.
Right. And I would argue that there are other depictions of Hades in different works of fiction that maybe are more complex in nature. Just the Percy Jackson series, which is another age-appropriate example, does Hades more complex.
See, this is an example of how weird it feels for me to have these two in the same tier, because they're just so different. Like...
Yeah, you're hovering, by the way, between the Has-Been Hotel version of Lucifer and Hades for the podcast listeners.
It's tough to say where those are in relation to each other because they're just so different, Like, one's a TV show, one's a film. One's going for the Hades depiction, the Greek version, and it's very funny, but they're also the villain, and they're being taken very seriously. And then we have this version that's practically just a straight-up protagonist and a character that we want to see win in this series. And they're exploring themes of like freedom and problems with authority and political issues and stuff. And it's like, I mean, for me, if we're going writing, honestly, Lucifer's better.
Sure, and I think that we can have that conversation more at the end when we're trying to rank. But I do think that they are both in A tier at this point.
All right, I'm gonna set it up with Lucifer edging out just a little bit ahead, I think.
Okay, I think that that's fair. Again, I think that Hades gets points for the legacy. If you go to...
They do.
Everybody has seen the design of Hades. Everybody knows who Hades is.
Yeah. Again, legendary voice acting.
100%. Legendary voice acting, and it's always going to hold the test of time. Very fun, easy movie to watch.
Yeah. All right. Another?
Yeah. Could we talk about Devamon from Digimon?
Yeah, we can.
This is interesting to me because Digimon is one of Lou and I's favorite childhood shows.
Yes.
And he's a little weird because in Digimon, there's different Digivolutions. So a Digimon goes through like 7 or 8 phases of life as different appearances.
Yeah.
And this is only one appearance of this character's lifespan when they are depicted as the devil in exactly this way. In the Digimon reboot, we see more phases, which are just like scarier versions of the devil. But there's also less scary versions of it too, because they go from being very young to very large and potentially intimidating. And what the intimidation factor is could be a hero or a villain. And in this case, in the very, very first version that Digimon was ever on TV, Devamon was like the original big bad, and he was an intimidating devil that sort of, this is a kind of a big spoiler, but went toe-to-toe with an angel character in a really compelling way that was about the most compelling that we had seen from a cartoon as kids, because we weren't exposed to the world of anime except for like Digimon and Pokemon.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, I'll put them on screen. I'll just throw them right here just for now. I just created a new tier list, or a new section for everybody listening. I created lame dash almost insultingly so, and that's where I put that devil from Rick and Morty, because, give me a little more glory. And it's also because I realized that I want Devamon, I think, in okay, because they are literally just a solid, average, evil devil,
Yeah, and they're not even the big bad of the series. They're kind of the
Exactly.
first big threat that the
Yeah.
Digidestin face in the series.
Exactly. This
So.
one, even this guy themself has higher evolution forms. So to me, this is like the champion level Digimon. You know, like,
Yes.
it's like you've got a good design. You do the evil thing. You're intimidating enough for us to take you seriously, but you don't really have that much flavor. You're just kind of the vanilla Death Devil guy. I think that's perfect for that.
I think you're right. I think the okay tier. So we would sort of say C tier if you're listening. It's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah, kinda. I don't know if it's gonna end up as an even 5 tiers, but we'll see. This one, let's do this. Let's get this one out of the way. Do you even see what I'm looking at here in this one?
I'm having a hard time seeing what it is. Do
Yeah,
you want to
it's because
is that Nightmare Before Christmas?
It is. It's none of these characters in the front. The Grim Reaper is just a background character in the Nightmare Before Christmas. And I put them in there even though they're breaking the rules, and I said I mostly only want like mainish characters because guys, it's the Nightmare Before Christmas. It's one of the most iconic Halloween things of all time. And then in the Grim Reaper, Death themselves is just casually sitting in on meetings, but isn't an active character. You know, they're like, I mean, I know I'm literally Death. Like, I think the Devil might even show up, or someone like the Devil is in this too. So I just thought they go right behind Devilmon.
I feel like this is boring for them to just be casually there and have no plot relevance whatsoever.
No, it's not boring because it's funny. It makes it not boring because it's hilarious that the Devil is just they're not even a C-list. They don't even have a line. They're an extra. That's hilarious. Come on.
You would know. I'm
Hey,
not going to argue.
Let's be
with
honest.
that.
I'm kind of a background character in most people's life until I'm not. You know what I mean?
I actually think that's very self-aware of you to not see yourself as the protagonist of your own story.
No, and I mean Tim Burton is my guy. You know, he's gotten me a lot of teenage. I'm sorry, that was a messed up joke.
Oh God.
You know, we're just gonna move past that one. Yeah, I think this is fair. Right here. Right here's fine. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Nice. Let's continue. Anything else that you wanna? Maybe we should get into the anime.
Sure, let's talk some anime.
Let's start with Pokemon. Giratina. So technically, everyone, Giratina Gen 4 is the devil Pokemon. They are the ruler of the Dark Realm or whatever. I'm putting them in boring.
Well,
Straight up.
So I already told you via text that I think this is a little silly. I guess by definition,
They're the
yes,
devil.
they're considered the devil
I don't-
Pokemon. Fine.
They are. I mean, it's weird to me that I'm not putting Darkrai on here because to me, Darkrai just purely based on design alone would be higher. But the thing is, they're a nightmare Pokemon. It's simply different. You know what I mean? In my opinion, Darkrai and Giratina should have switched roles in the canon, and that would have been cooler. But we didn't. We got this is the devil. It's a weird dragon ghost.
It does
thing.
not look anything like what you would expect, and that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
I appreciate being creative with these designs and letting the devil characters be something different than what you expect.
Well, and you know, I omitted a lot of anime that could have been on here because in Japanese lore and you know, lore from Asia and, you know, Eastern culture in general is different. You don't get devil and, you know, Grim Reaper as much as you get like demons, Shinigami, you know, yokai and stuff like that. But also anime is just a huge, like, I kept looking for lists and they're like 50 demons in anime that you could add to this list. And I'm like, dude, I can't add 50 demons to this list because then we're only going to talk about anime. So I ended up only taking a couple, like, big ones. And I know anime fans might be like, you chose Giratina. But look, it's the devil Pokemon. What do you want from me? I didn't write the Pokemon lore. And it's boring. Sorry.
Everyone knows Pokemon.
And everyone knows Pokemon. But not everybody knows Soul Eater. But you should know Soul Eater because it's one of my favorite anime. It's all about Halloween. If you like this video, if you like Halloween, you like anime, you'll love Soul Eater for sure. Same people who animated Full Metal Alchemist, I'm pretty sure.
I've had genuine interest in checking this out for a long time. You've said that you think I would even like this. It's not terribly
I think
scary.
you would love this. It's not scary at all. There's like a tiny bit of fan service, but it's not very egregious. It's very short. I love it. It's just super seeped in Halloween. Great plot line with the weapons and their meisters. So there's a whole thing where they're all going to school to become like Grim Reapers, like meisters of souls. And there are like characters that are weapons, and they are like living creatures that can turn into weapons. And then there are meisters, who are the people who wield those weapons. And Death is the leader of this organization and kind of the protector of a lot of worlds. And Death used to be a very scary, menacing guy, and he had this cracked face, and his voice actor was really menacing. But this Death, as we know him now, oh, he's just a fun little guy. He's not like that anymore. That was the old Death. Old Death was scary. We're not scary. We're funny. That's what his character is. He's super bouncy. He's super jovial.
Wow.
He's super happy. Very encouraging of students until he needs to take stuff seriously, and then he has like the anime old man badass like glow up. You know what I mean?
I see. This actually sounds very good and interesting
It's
to me.
sick. I mean, in my personal, now again, everyone, I love Soul Eater, so there might be a little bias here. I might put them up here because the plotline of Soul Eater I also am just totally in love with. Very much playing with the philosophy of good and evil. The villain is very much challenging our idea of what it means to be on the good team and stuff like that. And you know, at times we question Death as a leader as well, because, you know, is he really taking care of everyone, or is he maybe hiding some things about his own life too? And it's a very interesting. I really like this version of Death. And again, it's someone who they try to make them fun, they try to make them relatable, they try to make them you know, like kind of diffuse the scariness that could be in Death and is usually associated, but then they also take them very seriously and make them powerful, and there's sort of a philosophy that goes with confronting Death in that as well.
Fantastic. Well, I think everybody should check that out. You described it in a way that I feel like I would love this character, and I have no problem with you putting them in S tier like you have.
Hell yeah, I love it. Yeah, major ups for this one. Go check it out. All right, what's our next one? What are we doing now? Oh, do we have one more anime?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
And I think this is an S tier, to put it out there now.
You think so? You think Ryuk, the Shinigami? Now again, like I said, technically this isn't a devil, this isn't a Grim Reaper, this is a Shinigami. It's a Japanese demon. I'm breaking the rules a little bit, but they're very famous. There's a ton of Shinigami in Japanese anime, so like I wanted to give one example just to do the shout out. There's a million we could have chosen. This is a really awesome one.
Well, the premise of Death Note itself is that there is a guy who can write down a name and a person will die.
Yep.
And the Shinigami, correct me if I'm wrong, is responsible for this, so calling them Death is reasonable.
Well, not really. They're not actually responsible.
Okay, that changes things.
They're kind of like purgatory demons, honestly, because Ryuk, this guy specifically, did drop the Death Note into the human world for the lulz.
Okay.
But that's the only reason they did it, is because Shinigami live in purgatory and their life sucks. They literally just play cards all day and there's nothing to do. So this guy decides to hop into the human world and drops a Death Note in there because they have that power. Because, you know, demons have weird freaking powers, I guess.
To me, that is enough, though, to consider them Death by definition of the rest of the characters we're talking about, because
I mean, I added it.
They dropped a mechanism for it in the world and let people just do whatever they wanted with it. That is Death.
We don't see them being like taking souls or anything like that. Like they're just actually technically they are souls that used the Death Note in the past and kind of corrupted their soul.
Okay, so I believe that the image of this Shinigami is iconic.
Yeah.
And I tend, when we do tier lists like this, to really lean on iconicism. I think legacy matters when I'm thinking about tier listing things.
I do agree.
If they are not really Death fully, I do think that has to drop it down a notch.
And I might come down a little hard on this too. You might be surprised. Death Note isn't really interesting because of Ryuk. I got sucked into Death Note because of the metaphysical element and stayed for the really good thriller storytelling, the really good, like, you know, plot line with L, you know, and Light Yagami duking it out mentally. But honestly, when you really examine Ryuk as a character, again, this is just the show, not the anime for people, or just the anime, not the manga for those who are manga fans. He doesn't really have that much character. He's just kind of mildly entertained by humanity and is poking, which is an interesting take on death. It is a little flavor, but it's not saucy really even for me. You know,
Okay.
great design, good motivation for the story, but as a character themselves, doesn't really give that much for me.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's reasonable, and considering I'm already wanting to kind of put S tier as very clear depictions of Death, Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
That's actually what's stopping me from fighting harder for Hades being in S tier. I still kind of think that it's not an exact depiction of Satan or the Devil and the Grim Reaper.
See, for me, it's very close too. Let's keep going. Maybe they'll bump it up.
Okay, so B tier for Shinigami.
Yes.
Let's move on, and I will let you decide where we go next.
Let's do, honestly, all of these are awesome from this point on. I'm happy to do any. Let's just go from this and go from the outside in. Or
okay.
Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna pick random. Let's just do Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Okay.
This is
I'm just gonna say I am fighting for S tier very hard for Grim. And I'll tell you why. When I think of the Grim Reaper in animation,
this is the first thing I think of too.
That comes immediately to my head, and I'd be hard pressed to say that other animation fans would not say the same.
This is what we're doing. This is what I want to do. Because I agree with you. I agree with you. I want to create a new tier. We might have too many tiers, but I don't care.
Oh no. Okay. I've been trying to outline this for the podcast audience, being like it's A, B, C, D.
It doesn't work like that. Okay. Because the thing is, iconicism is its own thing. Because he's not complex. He's really not. They didn't write him to be very, very complex. He's interesting. He's kind of complex, but he's not like, you know, he's not blowing my mind with, the conception of good and evil or anything like that. And I think Hades deserves to be an iconic too. And the thing is, Lucifer's not iconic yet. They're just saucy.
Sure. I think the Shinigami is iconic. Would you agree with that?
Nah, not quite. Because again, for
Death Note
me
itself is iconic as an anime, but maybe not the Shinigami.
Yeah, like I think Light and L are iconic characters, but the Shinigami is just like a cool thing in it.
Okay.
I think this looks good. So just to refresh for the listeners, at the top we've got complex, interesting, saucy, and hot, or S tier, and only Death from Soul Eater is in there. We've got iconic with Grim from Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Hades from Disney. We've got saucy with Lucifer from Hazbin Hotel. And we've got solid Death plus a little flavor with the Shinigami from Death Note and Death from Family Guy. We've got okay with, like our average one. I'll consider that C tier. I don't know if it's made sense that way, but we've got Devamon from Digimon and the Grim Reaper from Nightmare Before Christmas on there. And then we've got lame, almost disgustingly so, with Rick and Morty's Devil. And we've got boring with Giratina.
All right. Thank you for walking through that. That is helpful.
Yes.
And I want to talk more about Grim. Because I love this character so much. And what I'm hoping today is that, because obviously we're ranking these, we're tier listing them, but I've got my mind on, are we potentially going to take a Grim Reaper and a Devil to move into an animated world with us down the road? And I want those characters to perhaps be the best cross-section of our personalities. Yes. And I feel like Grim is kind of that.
So here's the thing. I actually talk smack about Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy a lot because I literally hate Billy as a character with a passion. I hate other characters a lot in that show too. I love Mandy and I love Grim, but for the rest of the characters in that show, I'm not really a huge fan. But Grim, if we don't have Billy, bro, I would take Grim all day. Grim is a chill guy. Like, oh my god.
He's the best sidekick.
He really, dude, honestly, he seems like the only Death on this list that I could smoke a joint with.
All right. That's fine. I mean, you could at least have a beer with Death from Family Guy. I think
True.
that he might join you for that too.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
But I just feel like Grimm actually, he's got a moral code to him, and I do think in that way he's a little complex.
Yeah.
He's not just a basic depiction of I'm going to go around and take people when it's their time.
Yeah.
Wow, it is shocking that this show was on Cartoon Network as I even talk that through.
Yeah.
But he really does try to do the right thing. He tries to guide Billy and Mandy in a positive way.
Yeah.
I love his banter with Mandy. I really think that he would be an incredible companion.
Yeah. I think he'd be great for the ride too. If we needed somebody who was a powerhouse, though, honestly, the top one's the best because he's also like a crazy skilled anime fighter. I don't know if we need that for our travels though, and like low key, homie at the top almost has sociopathic behavior sometimes. So I think I like Grimm as a choice so far. I like that.
Great. And there's some shows we aren't really ever gonna cover them on Jester Bros Cartoon Travelers as the world.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
and I think Billy and Mandy kind of falls under that category where,
totally.
Yes, there is kind of an underworld, but if we're talking about it, we're just talking about Earth and the way that the mechanics work.
Exactly.
So I feel like this is a great way to tie Grimm into our canon.
Yeah.
This thing that we're building.
Also, if you've just been watching us for a minute, you're just gonna notice we're gonna get more creative with how to talk about worlds so that we can talk about shows like that in general.
Yes, 100% true.
Yeah. All right, onward.
Yeah, onward.
All right, we got him.
Wow, we've got some great options to go.
Right.
So I learned this before the pod.
There's no way him goes anywhere but saucy. Come on.
He belongs in the saucy category.
Absolutely.
So let me say this, right? Before this recording, I went on and we were trying to figure out, is him technically a devil character? And apparently, the original name for this character was Satan, but the censor said no for a Cartoon Network show.
That's awesome.
So they called him, implying, yeah, that's who he is.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's awesome.
And I couldn't not say, absolutely a queer icon for so many people.
Absolutely. I saw that come up in articles when I just looked it up briefly.
Yeah, when you look, see, I was trying to Google, is him from Powerpuff Girls a devil? And of course, the first thing that comes up when you start to Google that is him from Powerpuff Girls. You've got a list of a lot of different questions that people are asking.
Oh, I believe that is an entertaining list. That's very funny.
So absolutely, here's the thing. You're right. He doesn't belong anywhere but saucy, but he's also iconic. So I'm good with that, but
iconic for different reasons, not necessarily an iconic death figure, but they are iconic.
Yes, I would agree. And I just think a fantastic antagonist for Powerpuff Girls,
Agreed.
Which is another show with a lot of legacy behind it. So I didn't feel right talking about this today without him being on the list.
Yeah, no, that was a good addition. I like that. All right, let's go. Well, let's do Chernobog, because we talked about Chernobog on the podcast recently.
Yes. So we talked about how Chernobog is kind of this embodiment of evil.
This is the S tier of iconic. And to me, it doesn't get more iconic than this, but they're still not complex.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even hear Chernobog speak. The purpose of this character is to be this large, intimidating depiction of evil as demons are literally like swarming all around them.
They are Devamon perfected.
Oh, that's a great way of thinking about it. Chernobog is a much better version of what they were kind of going for Devamon to be.
Yeah, like if Devamon ran up to Chernobog, they would piss themselves with fear. 100%.
Yeah, I think that you're right.
Yeah. 100%.
I felt like there was another character. Oh yeah, actually, even Hades I thought was an interesting comparison. They're both Disney characters. Hades is kind of the god of the underworld.
Yeah.
And we sort of see Chernobog as being this devil figure. So I guess when we were starting to think about that, I was like, which one of these comes out on top? They're such different characters. One has levity, one is just fierce, intimidating presence.
Yeah.
And They both occupy their own slot.
They do. That's the thing. They're just both iconic for different reasons, which is why I think the iconic like section is actually really good. Because it is allowing us to. But to me, stuff that tackles death in the most philosophically interesting way ultimately is what wins me over. That's the only thing that goes in S tier. That's my thing though. Not everybody shares that. But can continue?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we've got Adventure Time's death.
Okay, this is good.
I wish I could put this one higher than Saucy.
What's holding you back?
Everything. The thing is, great design, great character. The concept of death is covered phenomenally in Adventure Time with other characters. But death themselves as a character is mostly just they have a great introduction where Jake goes into the underworld to Finn and Jake go into the underworld to save the soul of a flower that they accidentally killed that belonged to Princess Bubblegum. And Jake ends up losing his memory because he puts his head in a river, assumedly like the River of Styx or something like that. And Finn has to save him and the flower, and he does so by trying to beat death in a rock battle. And I'm pretty sure Finn loses, and there's some other thing that happens that gets him to save everybody, and I honestly don't remember what it was. But it's a cool intro. There's an amazing episode of Distant Lands that has death as the main premise of the episode. But this version of death, the main version of death that we know throughout most of the series, actually isn't the star of that episode for very long. So, like, again, death itself is covered in a very interesting way, but this character, to me, is ultimately just a really awesome, sick design, good character. Again, the concept is covered well, but it's not him specifically that makes it happen. So I can't justify putting them any higher than this. I would say right there.
Okay, so we're middle of Saucy tier.
Middle of Saucy for me.
All right, I defer to you on this one. Again,
Yeah.
I've seen some of Adventure Time, but not enough to be able to speak to this character. But I know it's beloved.
Yeah. They carry themselves that it's more flavor, more than just a little flavor, but they're not quite iconic. They're not that interesting, complex either in terms of themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Great. I think that sounds perfect.
All right. Cuphead Devil.
Okay, I love the Cuphead Devil.
I love the
actually.
Cuphead Devil too. I actually think this is maybe one of the best versions of the devil that's been covered in animation. And I think that's hilarious to say because I do not think the Cuphead let's just pretend we put this here because I am thinking about it.
Okay.
I think that the Cuphead show is maybe not as good as most of these properties. Maybe better than like Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I don't know. It may kind of hard comparison. I don't know. The more I think about Cuphead and the longer time passes, the more I think it was like kind of a gem of animation and art. You know?
I kind of agree with you. I think that the Cuphead show gave modern audiences classic cartoons in a way that they've never truly experienced.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to it for that. Even if not everything was complex, it was a great show with a lot of classic cartoon gags. And the devil, I think objectively was the best part of the show.
I agree. 100%. You know how earlier I said that Chernobog is Devimon done perfectly?
Yeah.
This devil is kind of the Family Guy Grim Reaper done perfectly. Because
interesting. Okay.
we have the plagued by bureaucracy, this is my job, funny, relatable, kind of flamboyant devil. But it does it in a way that actually gives it more character and complexity and makes us feel like we care about them and that we're invested in them. And they're still kind of the villain. They still kind of plague our protagonist, Cuphead and Mugman, but they plague him too.
Yeah.
And it gives you a very interesting relationship with the devil. It's not really death. It's very much a devil rendition. And I like that. I think they do the devil well, you know? And it's weird to say that, especially when we have Lucifer down here. Lucifer just needs more time. The Cuphead show's over, and this guy's proven himself already. And the animation's crazy. I like the design. The voice acting's great. Like, I don't know, man.
And he is complex.
He is complex.
he really thinks through a lot of the things that he's doing. He has this rivalry with Cuphead and Mugman that sometimes he's conflicted about.
Yeah,
Uh,
because he kind of
he's wi-
almost likes them sometimes, and that makes us
he's
like him.
he's willing to make a deal. He has likes and dislikes. You wonder, like, he wonders, do I want to be friends with these other people in hell? Do they actually like me?
You know, this is a compliment for this character. Is the thing that I was actually the most disappointed in about Cuphead is that we didn't get more of him in the Cuphead people interacting.
I also think that they never actually reached the full potential. Even though the character was fantastic, there was even some more.
I could feel it, yeah. I could feel there was more there for this character. I agree.
Well, for me, it was actually a plot resolution thing. It was
Sure.
feeling like the relationship between the devil and Cuphead and Mugman had a definite conclusion to it because it felt like it was going that way, and I felt like they never really got there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, everybody, if you think we're crazy, I don't know, check us. We have a whole reaction series where we watched the Cuphead show, and we even ate hot sauces and did a Hot Ones parody for one of them.
we did.
Yeah.
We dove deep.
Yeah, we did, and it was some of my favorite content that we did back then, like some of our favorite, older stuff, because we had a great time doing it, and it was really interesting to cover it. So yeah, check that out. Maybe we're crazy. Is this too high? Should we put them at top of Saucy, or is this good?
Yeah, I am willing, again, I know that everybody's going to have their opinions, and
they're not iconic. They can't go there. They're either at top of Saucy or bottom of Complex, Interesting, Saucy, and Hot. And he's hot. Well, remember how hard I simped for him?
Mm-hmm.
And I love a hot devil.
You do?
I
sure do.
I do.
I think that, again, knowing that there's almost two S tiers in this experiment, one being the iconic ones and one being the complex ones, I think that there is a case to be made here.
I like this too because he's complex not because of good and evil, which is honestly the basic thing to do. He's just complex because he's a person. He is the devil, but he's just complex. He's just a character with complex issues. And most of these other characters are not that.
Yeah.
Lucifer is actually. But most of them aren't.
Okay, well, I am in agreement with putting him in the complex S tier.
Let's do it.
I think that makes sense.
I love it. Call us biased because we covered it on the channel. I don't care. I love it. I want to do this one last. Let's do Over the Garden Wall.
Okay.
The Beast. So the Beast is cheating. The Beast is not death. But guys, come on. And I'll take any excuse to talk about the Beast. We're putting them in here
I think there's fan theories that the Beast is death.
They're close enough. I wrote one of those fan theories, kind of. Go check out our Over the Garden. I hate to do 2 plugs within rapid succession, but that's one of my proudest videos that I ever made for the channel, and it's not as popular as I wished it would be. So if you're interested in Over the Garden Wall lore and theories, I feel like I had a really good one. The Greg, I called it the Greg Pumpkin theory.
And if you're only watching the YouTube channel and you haven't gone back to our podcast that we recorded before we started bringing them to YouTube, we did cover Over the Garden Wall on Jester Bros Cartoon Travelers last year for Halloween.
Oh yeah, and I forgot about that.
We covered it as a reaction video the year before that on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so we do have the reactions too. I forgot. That's right.
Yeah, and then the video that Lou talked about where he sort of got into a really awesome fan theory. So we have history with this show as well. We love it. I think the Beast is a phenomenal character.
They are a phenomenal character. I feel like bad because I'm kind of cheating by having them on this list, but like I gotta be honest, man.
If we're rating the characters as they are,
I need you to balance this because I wrote a whole theory video based on like how Over the Garden Wall tackles death. So I'm a little bit biased because I've spent so much brain power on this canon. Are they actually not this complex? Am I wrong?
Well, I think that we get all of the right hints that they are complex.
Okay.
I think that it's hard to separate a character like this from one like the devil from Cuphead, because that character is written with a plot line in mind. Like, he's going to interact with these characters and he's a little bit cheeky. The Beast is there to be kind of pure evil. And I think that's where I also have a hard time comparing Chernabog against Hades for the same reason.
And you know what? I did say that it is death that is covered well in Over the Garden Wall. not necessarily the beast, and I said that about this death, so I guess I can't have them that high by that logic.
I think that the problem
right.
is
You're
that
right. You're
really
right.
properly calling. I think the ones that are in S tier need to be pretty convincingly.
They're iconic at this point.
I guess that's true. Over the Garden Wall is iconic at this point. And if you haven't seen it, everybody check out Over the Garden Wall.
Absolutely.
My gosh.
That is probably my actually number one favorite Halloween piece of media that exists. I love it. I literally love it so much.
I don't want to spend too much time on it. Yeah, I don't think that we could call them complex just because we don't know anything about their actual personality. They kind of are.
Yeah.
They are what they are designed to
iconic.
be.
Yeah, and they do it so well.
Yeah, but this is the S tier too. Remember, like, we are not saying that the complex S tier is better than the iconic S tier. We're just trying to categorize them correctly.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah, they're kind of both S tier. I personally, it depends on what you value for me. Which of these you rank higher? I personally put the complex higher, but it depends on who you are. Last one, Death from Puss in Boots, and
the best one.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say they're number one.
They are number one.
I got chills down my spine when Death read this line. I'm gonna do it in post right now for the video watchers. For those that don't know, I'm gonna butcher trying to remember it. He said something like, "Yeah, I'm Death. No metaphor, no allegory, straight up death." And I remember watching that scene in the theater and a freaking chill went down my spine. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this DreamWorks animated film that started with Shrek just, like, sent, like, kids screaming out of the movie theater.
It is, in my opinion, the best depiction of death that I've ever seen in animation.
Yeah, I'm blown away. Honestly, I'm Death. I think they did a better job than I do. I hate my job. I want to quit. You know, it's like Santa Claus. Santa Claus have, like, God, imagine a story where Santa and I switch for a day. That's something that we should write down. Santa Claus is like, we do like the classic, like, my life is so hard. Ho, ho, ho. My life is so much harder. I have to collect souls all the time, but you only have to deliver presents to rich babies once a year. But those rich babies are real stuck-up assholes, Death. You don't know, and all the elves are such little bitches all the time. Oh, you have no idea what it's like to be Death Santa Claus. You have no idea. Well, you know what? Let's take it to the streets. I'm gonna take your job, and you're gonna deal with the Keebler elves for the rest of the year. Let's do it. 365 days. I'll prepare. It's honestly kind of like The Nightmare Before Christmas, but on mutual terms, and it ends up way cooler. And the best part is the end of the story is they actually do better at each other's jobs and just switch permanently. No lessons learned.
Whoa. I think that you got something there. I think you do.
I'm sorry. I had a brainstorming session with my buddy Ben last night where we literally just wrote, like, script ideas and came up with 10 over, like, 2.5 hours at, like, 1 o'clock in the morning. So that's where my brain's at right now.
Wow. Well, that's great. Everybody, if you haven't seen Puss in Boots 2,
yes.
I waited. Lou was like, you have to see this movie immediately. I'm like, okay, but who's got the time? I waited like a year before I finally took him up on it. So
it's literally, again, it's one of my top 10 favorite animated films of all time. It actually made my top 10. And that's so rare. You guys have no idea how stuck up I am about my film choices.
And here's why this is the best version. It handles death in a thought-provoking way that makes you think as an audience member.
Yeah.
It scares you, but sometimes it even makes you laugh.
Yeah.
You know, this character has everything that you are looking for in the cross-section of every single character that we talked about today. And I don't think that there is any other way that we can think about this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I just deleted the bottom row. I just put lame, almost insultingly so, with boring as well, because boring is just as offensive as lame.
Okay, so we did kind of end up with an S tier, A tier, B, C, D, and F.
Yeah, you're right. We did.
Wow, go us.
Yeah,
this is
nice.
Perfect.
Let's go.
You want to recap it for the audience?
Yes, indeed. From the top, everybody. And if you've already can see it on the YouTube channel, I'm just going to do the outro now because I know that y'all are leaving. Thanks so much for watching this, everybody. Jester Bros signing out.
We have one more decision to make, so I hope people don't tune out
okay,
yet.
Just kidding. Don't leave. I'll edit that in a way where it's not confusing. All right, from the top. Actually, from the bottom. At F tier, lame, almost insultingly so, or boring, we've got from the bottom Giratina, and then the devil from Rick and Morty. In D tier, or okay, we've got the Grim Reaper from Nightmare Before Christmas, the background character, and help me.
Devimon.
Thank you, Devimon from Digimon. And then in C tier, or solid death plus a little flavor, we've got Death from Family Guy and Ryuk, the Shinigami from Death Note. In Saucy, again, we're going from the bottom up. We've got him from Powerpuff Girls, Death from Adventure Time, and Lucifer from Has Been Hotel, and that would be our B tier. In Iconic, or A tier, we've got from the bottom the Beast from Over the Garden Wall, Hades from Hercules, Disney's Hercules, Grimm from The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and Chernabog from Fantasia. And then in S tier, or complex, interesting, saucy, and hot, we've got the Devil from Cuphead, we've got Death from Soul Eater, and we've got Death from Puss in Boots as our number 1.
Fantastic. And again, I'll kind of say that S and A tier, they're almost both S tiers. They're just different versions of it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And then Saucy, even which is technically B tier, is pretty much A, like right on the cusp, best of the best.
And then, I remembered what we were doing for the last thing. Who's joining the crew?
So, yeah, I think that this is how we should be thinking about this.
Oh my god, we have a crew now. We have a crew!
Yes, I think we're building a crew, and I think that can encompass a couple things. I think it can.
Death on our crew. Oh my god, I should have had Brooke from One Piece on here. I'm so silly. Oh well.
And I want to build the crew with episodes like this. I don't want to build the crew through our world episodes.
We're doing it through our tier lists? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. That's a great idea.
Brackets, games, other ways to explore different characters.
Shoot.
Again, I'm even open to things like vehicles. I want people to give us ideas for episodes that we can do.
Yeah.
That can bring new things onto our crew.
Yeah.
And again, maybe
picture our multi-dimensional spaceship is like the Bat Cave, and it's just enormous, and we have a ton of different stuff, except it's not really cripplingly lonely and depressing. We have like friends.
There you go. And maybe one day us and the crew settle down in one of the worlds, or we make our own world and we explore around. But I do think that this is a great type of episode to explore building the crew in the future. So let's start here.
So we're taking an agent of death or evil.
So I think that we should take a Grim Reaper and a Devil, and I believe it should be Grim from Billy and Mandy and the Devil from Cuphead.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I think that for introducing death onto your ship is already a dangerous proposition, especially starting that way without anybody else
involved. I think we should just take one, because our crew's going to get too big. We need to choose between these two.
Well, I think in general we'll pick one, but I do see the Devil and Grim Reaper as being two different things.
I do too, but we only get one. We got to choose. Which one would you take?
Well, I just think the idea of the Devil and Grim interacting is so incredible. For them to like have a buddy comedy happening on our ship would be a missed opportunity to pass up.
But who would we pick if we could only choose one?
We would pick Grim, because Grim is more likely to be our friend, and I think the Devil would be stirring up crap all the time, which would be causing us problems.
We got to take Grim. He's got to be
you
our
wanna,
one.
You want to pick one.
We got to take our one. We got to take our one, because we can't have competing agent of death. We're gonna have a really complex crew eventually, and I think we can't have too much Devil on there.
All right, that's fair. If we decide later we think it's different enough and we want a Devil on standby, let's just remember that the Cuphead show Devil is available. Okay,
we'll swing by. We'll swing by the show again. But I love this. Grim is on the crew. Let's go.
When we do this in the future, we will always end by picking one to join the crew, and I think that this is going to be very, very fun.
Cool. I love it. Well, that's all we got for you today, everybody. Stay alive out there.
Yeah.
But don't be too afraid of death. It's cool to think about. I'm glad that we got to talk about a lot of this today and what makes death good. Because one reason why this is good is because it confronts what death is, the reality. It does it in a way that's mature, it's serious. It takes it seriously. It takes mortality seriously. but it's not ruthless. It's got meaning and purpose and brings purpose to life. And that's what this is all about. Death is all about bringing purpose to life. So have a
You're
beautiful
talking
rest of your lives.
specifically. You're talking specifically about the Puss in Boots 2 villain.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah, no, I was just making sure that you weren't talking about like the whole discussion. You were talking about that character.
Yeah, well, and kind of summarizing the just death and why it's good to think about it and why it's nice to have little seminars where we talk about it and think about it because it's gonna happen. We're all gonna get there, and who knows what's gonna happen.
Definitely.
So,
Well, thank you, Death, for joining us for Halloween month.
absolutely, look out, everybody! Might be coming for you this year. Really though.
Are you ready to see true darkness?